Right, time to talk about Sunday's North London derby. As for Antonio Conte, the Tottenham manager, unbeaten still in the Premier League since his return from Serie A, and of course knocked out of the League Cup in the semi-final against his old team by Chelsea last night. Another chance of silverware gone for the Italian.
I think the performance was much better than the performance in the first leg, and the first half we struggled a bit, especially the way to try to bring pressure without the ball. And I think in the second half the performance was good, and the intensity was high, and I think honestly that we deserved a better final result today.
We'll get to Sunday's game in a bit. I saw Wrighty throwing a little something there in the tunnel. We'll ask him about that. Not sure who that was. He had a great record, didn't he, in the North London derby against Spurs. This is where you get to say nice things about Tottenham, right? So look, Europa Conference League, that was gone. By kind of no fault of their own. They were out of that, Tottenham, weren't they? And that was going to be a big chance. They don't need reminding, the Tottenham fans. 2008, Jonathan Woodgate, the last trophy. That was a chance. Last night was a chance as well in this Chelsea game. But over two legs, they were schooled, weren't they? 3-0.
Yeah, but the thing is, and it's very difficult. You go into that second leg, you're 2-0 down. It's at home. You know, you have to start fast. You have to come out the blocks. You have to frighten Chelsea. You have to put them under pressure. You have to try and get that goal early. It didn't happen. You know, Chelsea for me looked comfortable. Yes, he mentioned that Spurs done better in the second half and stuff. But I'm looking at the game at the start, and I'm watching Chelsea, and I didn't fear for Chelsea in that game. We're not seeing Antonio Conte's team yet, but what he has done, he has got people like Kane and that firing, which Nuno obviously couldn't do. He couldn't get the front men firing. He needs a bit more creativity, but it's very difficult to look at a Conte team at the moment with the players that he's got. It's still not got what he needs. So you're feeling like, hopefully, Sunday, you kind of get the same kind of performance sort of from Tottenham.
There it is.
But the thing is with Conte, he's a guy who's going to get his team playing as best they can against an Arsenal side that will probably be weakened anyway.
Yeah, first North London derby, Farah, for Conte. What an experience for him, but the significance on this game. And look, we said there, unbeaten still in the Premier League. His Premier League record is decent. They're at home. They've got the two games in hand. It's kind of in their hands already with still a third of the season to go.
Yeah, definitely. Look, he's got advantages in terms of being at home. Look, he's got a good record since he's come in. He has changed them. You know, he's trying to put his philosophy into a team that was broken before he come in, not performing very well, disorganised. He's tried to bring that. He just hasn't got his players, the players that he needs to fit his philosophy, and that's what he's struggling with. We spoke about, everybody talks about, you know, Kane not getting a service, and he isn't. And they haven't got the, you know, you've got Hojbjerg and Skip in there trying to provide for him. You've got an underperforming Dele Alli when he comes in. Son, you know, at the minute he's injured. So look, for Kane to get goals, he needs players around him. He hasn't quite got that at Spurs. What Conte would do, and what he did when he was at Chelsea, he's a guy that will bring energy, and he'll be like that 12th man, as well as the fans being at home. That this Tottenham team in this moment in the league that they need. He's a guy that brings energy. He'll be screaming. He'll be running up and down the sideline and really trying to drive and push them on. And they need that, because look, the last two games in the cup against Chelsea, poor performance. No energy in their team. There was nothing. They really did underperform. But I think with him on the sideline, they've got just that little bit of an advantage over Arsenal, even though both teams come into the game in form in terms of results.
Just nothing.
Listen, I want to try. Listen, Monday morning.
You move further away from me, by the way.
I can get closer.
I know we've got to be sensibly safe.
I think as far as Spurs are concerned, I looked at the two games against Chelsea, and they sum up where Spurs are now. A lack of quality, and the fact that all of the goals were mistakes. They were all self-inflicted goals. And this is the problem. You're talking about a fixture for leaders, for people to stand up to be counted. And there are very few leaders in that Tottenham team. I think there are people who have had lots of chances to show themselves to be big players, show themselves to be leaders, and they've failed, and that's why they need surgery. And I look at this squad now. This month in particular is a chance for Tottenham to decide what they want to be. They've got arguably the best manager they have ever had. in the Premier League. He's a serial winner. He knows all about the London derby concept from his time at Chelsea. He will know all about the intensity of this fixture, but are his players up for it? Kane is, but Kane doesn't have Son. Son's injured. And this is the guy who, if there are going to be holes to find in the Arsenal team, Son can find them. Moore is decent, but I don't think Moore is in Son's class. And that, is, for me, is a big reason why I think Arsenal will win. I think Arsenal are a better side. I think Spurs have to look at their recruitment. They could have signed Tomiyasu, who looks a super player at right back. Instead, they signed Emerson Royal, who wasn't good enough defensively. I think there are other areas in the Tottenham team that need work, and Conte's been calling for it, but so far they haven't got it.
So if they need surgery, and Antonio Conte's the surgeon, are you amazed that we're, 13 days into the January transfer window? There's no way, Righty, is there, that Conte comes to a team like Tottenham and doesn't have assurances from Levy that he can spend money? Maybe that's in the summer, but they need it now, as Farah said.
You like to think that if you're going to get a manager of that calibre, you know, and he's proven everywhere he's gone, there must be some assurances that I can buy who I want to buy, and you know, that's got to happen. And if you're Daniel Levy and you now end up with a Antonio Conte, and we see the same things happen, you know, we saw it with Pochettino. He just needed that. He needed it right when he needed it, after the Champions League final, leading in, even before leading in, it needed to be done. He needed new players. He needed to freshen it up, not for himself, but even just for the players, for him, for them to go, right, bam, Champions League final, here we go again. We're talking about Pochettino. They were second, third, fourth, in and around the Premier League. They were there, and he didn't back him. So to get Conte, and then you kind of like lucked out. He's got him. You have to now make sure that you back him and give him everything he wants.
So this period right now, there is this game, but also they've got the games in hand on Arsenal. If they win those games, they move above them into fourth. Sorry, on Arsenal and West Ham.
Yeah.
They win those games, they move into fourth place. One of those games is against Chelsea, so you may as well forget that game right now, because they're not winning that game. And that's why it's so remarkable that we're in the second week of the January transfer window and they haven't got any reinforcements. Could they beat a Wolves side that are really capable defensively? I don't think so. They're not going to beat Manchester City. Leicester are getting back to a little bit of confidence, and you know, Southampton, you never know what Southampton you're going to get. I look at that list, maybe one of those games I could say with any certainty they would win. The others, I don't think so.
Yeah, and we know what Antonio Conte is like. Righty, you mentioned it there. Everywhere he's been, even at Chelsea, he spends money. Inter Milan, the reason that he left Inter Milan was because the squad was being pulled apart. It was decimated, wasn't it? He was losing Lukaku, he was losing all of his big players. And I just would love to have been a fly on the wall in that conversation with Daniel Levy when he signed, because I drove in this morning and a lot of Spurs fans saying we've got the best manager that we've had, and they included Poch in that. The best manager that we've had in the Premier League era. And we've already not backed him at this stage. I appreciate it's really difficult to do business in January. You know, a lot of Spurs fans say, well, hold on, why haven't we got Coutinho on loan? Why aren't we getting these numbers in? We're going for the top 4. Villa are going for the top 10.
Yes. And fans will look at that and they'll see that, because you think to yourself, from a creative point of view, maybe in Conte's eyes, he's not the player for him, but from creative point of view, Coutinho he's there. He was there for somebody to take. So the fans are right to be thinking, well, why aren't we gone for him? Because at one stage, I think Arsenal were linked with him. But the point with him is that either he's been given assurances that if it doesn't happen in January, it's going to happen in the summer. So, you know what I mean? Just as long as we could get as close as we can, and then we'll have a real goal next year. Otherwise, I can't understand why he would come, other than trying to get Tottenham, firstly, back into the top 4 and then challenging for the Premier League.
Do you think he would walk in the summer if he's not backed? The kind of guy that he is. He's explosive, isn't he? As great as he is.
He is explosive, but like what we're going to see, I think, in this window is that if we start hearing that they wanted this and this didn't happen and it might happen in the summer, that's why he might stay in the summer, because they can't do it now. But I think that if there's things we start hearing that he's trying to do stuff now and it doesn't happen, then you have to say that come the summer, it could get fiery.
The only problem is, come the summer, if they're not in the top 4, and I cannot see them finishing in the top 4 with that investment in this month, really, to you guys, if you are a player and Tottenham come looking for you and you're not in the top 4 in the summer, maybe not even in the top 6, you know, would you go there?
I was going to make that point. I was going to say they're that close. Mighty said it. Look, they're that close. And if they win their 2 games in hand, they go into the top 4. They need players to then sustain it between now and the end of the season. If they're in the top 4, come the summer, in terms of what they can then bring in and what the attraction is there, it's completely different. They fall outside that top 4, outside of Europe, there's no attraction for players to go there. Yes, they've got a fantastic stadium. Yes, they hold this name. Yes, they've got one of the greatest managers, but it's not a draw. It's not a draw for a top player. Top players want to go and play and test themselves week in, week out in the top, competitions, Champions League being one.
One of the things I'd want to know, Darren, is if how long he's in
going to be there,
for, before I sign for him, because you don't want to be signing for him and then the manager all of a sudden he's gone. He's gone after a year or something. Or you sign in the summer and, you know what I mean, after giving you the chat like what we're going to do and this and that, then all of a sudden the manager's gone. So it would be the kind of place where you think, well, I'd like to sign for that manager, but how long's that manager there for? Because I know for as long as he's there, they've got a chance.
It's identifying those players as well, just finally on this, because, Steve Hitchen and Paratici take a lot of responsibility for this as well. They're the ones who are identifying these new recruits. And you could argue that actually Baldini signed the best Spurs player of the last 10 years in Son back in 2015. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, but he does know Patrice. What's his name?
Paratici, Juventus, yeah.
He does know him very well. I thought there would have been a lot more links with, because they very much know the Italian league. I thought that we'd have been seeing more work from Italy, maybe coming to Spurs and that, but you're not seeing too much yet. But I feel that this month needs to go. We need to see what happens in this month, and then find out what they're thinking after that.
Right, let's talk about Arsenal, because Arsenal played in a one-off all-white strip, beautiful strip against Nottingham Forest as part of the launch of the No More Red outreach and anti-knife crime initiative, which Ian and actor Idris Elba are spearheading. Ian and Idris were at the City Ground on chat. It's a fantastic initiative. It's a brilliant campaign, isn't it? And we should never underestimate the power that Premier League clubs have, particularly a club like Arsenal have such a global pull, right, T?
Well, the thing is, I'm very proud of Arsenal Football Club. Obviously, Adidas coming on board as well, simply because of the work that Arsenal have done in that community for many, many years. Obviously, Adidas coming in now, who can help with the safe spaces, with the funding, with the mentoring. I don't think people understand how important it is to have mentors. So people that you can speak to. And we're not talking about somebody that you see on a weekly basis and they give you a pearl of wisdom every single time, but somebody who can be there for you, somebody you can rely on.
And you had that.
Absolutely had that. I had that through, like I mentioned, I mentioned it's funny because my old youth worker got in touch with me, Ivan York, he's an American guy, and Arlene McKenzie, two people who I caused a lot of problems for when I was a youth. But they were there, and they were always there, and they always brought you back in line. I don't think people understand how important it is, and Idris said it there. You're at school, you're there all day, but from the time you get from school to get home, if you haven't got the safe space, so many things happen in that time when you're on your way home or when you're not in and around the youth clubs. And that is the kind of things that we want to bridge. We want to get those safe spaces back so people can go there and do their stuff, mix and mingle and do what they do, what young people are supposed to do, rather than kill each other.
Yeah, and look, to see Idris and Wrighty behind it so passionately will have such an impact, won't it?
Massively, massively. I think we've moved a long time away from appealing to other people to do things, the authorities to do something, the government to do something. This isn't politics, but we have the opportunity to be the people who can force the change. We are the they, if you like. Yeah. And I think you look at somebody inspirational like Ian, you look at somebody inspirational like Idris, you look at us here bringing this message to a global audience, the importance of what they are doing, and the backing of Arsenal is key to this, and Adidas, because they're sportswear brands, they're a football club that has a global appeal. They can drive a message not just to young people, but to the organisations that can support this initiative with money, with messaging, with all the kinds of things that will achieve this objective. Because if it saves one life, then it will have done its job.
Yeah, of course. And if you want to find out more, just stick
I was going to mention on that. You think about the safe space, and I remember youth club for me growing up was the most important thing. When things are not right at home, and no one knows what goes on once you leave the school and you go home, or when you leave home to go to school, etc. And in between that time. But what it was a constant. It was a constant where you could go there and you was never judged. So as Righty said, look, we were all troublesome as kids. We all did things that we probably shouldn't have, and you learn. But what you do when you go home, or what you do when you go to a safe space in a youth club and you have these mentors, they don't judge you for what you do and for the wrong and right that you do. They'll be supportive of it and they'll educate you around it. And look, for them all to be closed down, I go back to where I grew up and on the estates, and there's no youth clubs, there's nowhere for these kids to go. What do they do between, as you say, 3 o'clock and before they probably want to go back into their home at 9 o'clock at night? What is there for them to do? Nothing. They get themselves into trouble and they've got no one to answer to.
Ian, you know, us, Idris, you know, we have experience of that. We've seen it firsthand. So knowing what that is all about and what you've just articulated there, you're able to take it to an audience that can see that you get it.
Yes, and you care.
Relatable, care. Care is the main thing. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, good chat. Look, and I was going to say, if you want to find out any more, just stick No More Red into your search engine. There's plenty more details online. And Righty's course is going to be pushing this till the end of eternity.
Yes, absolutely.
Look, let's talk about the game, shall we?
Yes.
I mean, I assume you're in here on Sunday because you'd need an underground tunnel to get into the stadium, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's funny because I don't get to much live ones, which is a bit of a shame because, if I'm being totally honest, when I was playing, I loved playing at White Hart Lane. It was the one you wanted to be because for some reason you get more energized and you feel more focused on what you have to do. I think when you're playing at home in the North London derby, and it never disappoints. It never disappoints me anyway. When you're playing at home, you get an anxiety of failing in front of your own people, and it means so much to the fans. Whereas you go and play at White Hart Lane, they've got the fear. We can then put the fear upon them and try to put the pressure on them. And you know, a lot of the times I had a lot of joy over there. But when you look at what we're going there with now, you know, we're missing a lot of our midfield. If Xhaka's not playing, we looked at Sambi Lokonga the other day against Nottingham Forest, and he's a very good player. You know what I mean? He's a good player, but he's not quite ready. Same with Charlie Patino. Would have learnt so much as one of the best youth team players that's come out of that academy. Would have learnt so much in that Forest game. But for me, from a midfield point of view, Arsenal are very much down to the bare bones in respects of what we need to do to attack Tottenham and continue to attack them like we've done recently. So it's going to be a tough game. I'm looking forward to the game because the derby's the derby.
Yeah, and they're only 2 points off the top 4, Arsenal, at the moment. I know Tottenham have got those games in hand, and actually West Ham play at 2 o'clock, don't they, against Leeds, so they could be 7 points ahead of Tottenham by the time this one kicks off. But I was at the game at I was about to say Highbury, I'm showing my age. I was at the game at the Emirates this season, and Arsenal absolutely walloped Tottenham, didn't they?
Yeah, they were fantastic. Look, this game excites me the most for this weekend because, look, they're both coming into it in form in terms of points on the board with the run of games they've gone on, but both frail. So they're both fragile. And Righty just spoke about the absences in the midfield, and we saw the performance against Nottingham Forest. So I think the anticipation, not knowing what's going to happen in this game, and it could go either way, for a neutral, it's fantastic.
With so much at stake as well, Farah, you know.
For both teams. Look, they both need that fourth spot. They both need to show that ambition. They're there and thereabouts. You think of how Arsenal started the season to where they're at now, and how Arteta's been able to change that around. You're starting to see a shift in the player mentality at Arsenal. So they're in a good space. It's for me, it's an exciting game.
And just a quick one, we only have to rewind, I should say, back to 3 games gone, bottom of the table Arsenal, Spurs were top, all the Spurs fans were taking pictures, and now looking at we've got this battle for 4th for both of them.
And I think it's going to increase the pressure for Spurs because I think Saka, Smith Rowe, key players in this game. I think Smith Rowe will continue that run of scoring goals and Saka will torment Spurs. I cannot see Arsenal losing this.
Anyone think Spurs are going to win here? I know you don't. Anyone?
I think they've got a chance. I think I genuinely believe it can go either way. And the fact that, as you say, Arsenal was so light in midfield and the performance at Forest wasn't great, it can go either way for me.
There we go. Enjoyed that. The school teacher's been in there.